Hello.
हेलो स्टूडेंट्स, वेलकम टू IFAS। तो here we are again। जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था, हमारी ये जो 30 डेज की फ्री क्रैश कोर्स जो चल रहा है, इट इज़ प्योरली डेडिकेटेड टू ब्रिटिश लिटरेचर, in which we are studying everything related to British literature. Here we are also talking about the background and history of the literature, as well as we are looking at the famous writers, famous poets, famous authors of this age and their famous works. And I am also telling you the stories related to that writer, maybe, or maybe about any of their works. So if you haven't watched any of my lecture yet, do it right away, so that your whole literature part will be cleared and you won't face any difficulty, any doubt in UGC-NET English. Okay, so here we are talking about British literature. Because if you have seen, British literature is the most prominent, most common, most important topic of your syllabus, because extremely sorry. So 80 to 90%, sorry, 70 to 80% of the questions are based on the British literature and the writers or the works of British literature. So that is why British literature is very important topic of the day. So now we are going to study few of the MCQs. We are going to practice some of the MCQs on the topic which we studied in the previous class. Okay, so let's see how many students know about this topic, how many students are able to get this topic, and who are not still understood this topic. So for the students, those who have not understood the topic, you will also be able to understand, you will get to know that what are the questions, how the questions are being asked, and how you have to understand any particular subject, okay, or any particular age. Okay, so this is what we are going to study in today's session. So let's begin and start with our session for today. So before we actually start for the PYQs, here is another information which is very important to know, that our batch has already started from today, that is 28th of March. And if you haven't enrolled in the batch, still there is some time. We have kept 5 days buffer time for the students, those who have understood about the course late, because there are few students who contacted me and who said, ma'am, that we haven't we don't know about the course, we want to enroll in the course, so please just extend some of the days so that we can take admission in the course. Okay, so for those, we have kept, for all such students, we have kept 5 days buffer time. So you still get 5 more days in which you can take the admission for the course. So if you are new to this channel, if you haven't known about our batch as of now, this is it. You have understood about it right now. So after this class, immediately go and check the details of the course and enroll in the batch. We are also having 7 days free demo course. So you can also enroll in our free days, 7 days free demo course, where you will understand that how we are teaching, what we are teaching, okay, and you will get all the information related to it. Okay, so please take note of this. There is also contact number given to you here, that is 9172226688. You can also call on that number. You can take all the required details of the course. For example, the price of the course, the duration of the course, the timing of the course, everything will be told to you. Okay. Now let's move ahead and look at the questions related to this topic. So as you all know, in our previous class, we studied about the old age, old period. Then we also studied middle age, middle period. Then we saw age of Chaucer, and also we started with the age of revival. We at least saw the background of that age, right? So in today's session, we will be looking at the old age literature as well as question based on the middle age literature, okay? So if time permits, we will look at some of the other questions as well. But as of now, what you have to remember, that we are discussing, so these questions, whatever we are going to discuss right now, are based on the old age literature as well as middle age literature, okay? So just pay attention to the question number 1, which says, one of the oldest poems in English, which is the oldest poem in English, that is the Beowulf, is written by whom? So if you have paid attention to my lectures, you might know about it that the author of this poem, the poet of this poem, is unknown. Nobody knows who actually wrote this poem, okay? Now we will find a lot of translations, lot of critiques, lot of essays based on Beowulf. There is also one essay called as Translating the Beowulf, okay? Translation of Beowulf, translating on Beowulf. But you will not know that who is the actual author, who is the actual poet of this particular poem. So what will be the answer? So the answer will be option number D, means the author or the poet of this poem is unknown. Yes. So students, here I can see there are not many students who have joined in today. I know because of the time change maybe. So those who have joined in the session, please share this link with all of your friends, so that they will be able to know that we have started the class and the timings has been changed, and they will be notified for it. So just share as much as possible so that maximum students will get the benefit. They will understand that we are discussing all the PYQs or all the MCQs based on the topic, based on the English literature, whatever we studied in our previous classes. Okay? Hurry up. Okay. So let's continue and look at the question number 2 now. What is our question number 2? The monster, pay attention to the question. The monster Grendel appears in the poem. So the monster Grendel is a character of one poem. You have to find out in which poem you will find the character monster Grendel. Okay, so for that, let's look at some of the background of monster Grendel. So what is this Grendel? So basically, Grendel is a fictional character. Okay, it is a fictional character. It is a monstrous creature defeated by the Beowulf. Okay, now Beowulf, already you know, he is a young warrior, and Beowulf is a poem. The whole poem is written on this young warrior, right? So in the old English poem Beowulf, composed between 700 and 750 CE, and descended from the biblical Cain. So Grendel, so Cain is a person. Cain is a what you can call it. It's a person who is it's a character in Bible. Okay. And Grendel is an outcast, doomed to wander the face of the earth, and he revenges himself upon humans by terrorizing and occasionally devouring the warriors of the Danish king Hrothgar. Okay, so this is the story about the Hrothgar. So he was basically terrifying the people and the warriors of the king in the kingdom of Rodgar. Okay, so Beowulf, a warrior and headman of the Geese, the Swedish tribe, engages him in combat and mortally wounds him. So Grendel's horrible mother avenges her son's death, but is also defeated and killed by Beowulf. Many critics have seen Grendel as the embodiment of the physical and moral evil of the Hellenism. Then Beowulf's struggles to overcome the monster are thought of symbolize Anglo-Saxon England's energizing Christianity. So basically this poem is related to, or this poem is compared with the actual condition of England. So you might have seen that Anglo-Saxons came into England and they started bringing their religion there, right? So obviously England people, Britain people, or the English people also wanted to secure their religion, which was already present. So this was a war or the fight which was going on between the Anglo-Saxons and the England people, okay, so or the native people. So this war is compared with the Beowulf poem, where Grendel, the monster, is fighting with the warriors, okay, of the kingdom. So this is the comparison going on here. Then you will also find the 20th century American writer John Gardner told the story of Beowulf from Grendel's point of view in Grendel 1971. So if you get time, do read it. So this is so here John Gardner wrote Beowulf from the Grendel's perspective. So now Grendel, as you know, so if you will read original Beowulf, what you will find that Grendel was the antagonist. But if you will read John Gardner's Grendel, then you will find or you will understand, or you will be able to know the actual point of view of Grendel as well, or you will able to find the other side of the coin. Getting my point? So that is important. So remember this. So also, so who wrote this? American writer. And what is the name of the American writer? John Gardner is the name of the American writer. Got it? Yes. Hello. Good afternoon, Disha. Good evening, Disha. Good evening, Prateek. Very good evening to all of you. I hope you have okay. So now coming back to the question. Now we have understood the background of Grendel. So now, can you give me the answer? Now the answer is very simple, right? It's C, that is Beowulf. So in the poem Beowulf, you will find the character, the monster Grendel, okay? And also pay attention to the points that I have covered or I have explained you here, because now if the question once is asked about the poem, another time they might ask something else from the same poem, okay? So you should also know the background, or try to remember this background. If you are making some notes, if you are writing it down somewhere, then do mention it there, okay? Let's look at the next question now. So the next question says the poem Widsith, probably the oldest in English, is about. So now here they are asking about the poem Widsith. Okay, what is this poem Widsith is all about? Here is the background of the poem Widsith. Pay attention. So Widsith, it's a modern English. So modern English में क्या कहते हैं Widsith को? Means a far traveler. Okay, who is a far traveler. And old English poem, probably from the 7th century, that is preserved in the Exeter book. There is this Exeter book in which the preservation of old English books is being done. A 10th century collection of old English poetry. And Widsith is an idealized self-portrait of a Scop, that is minstrel of the Germanic heroic age, who wandered widely and was welcomed in many mead halls, where he entertained the great of many kingdoms. Then, because of the heroic figures, the minstrel claims to have visited range from the 4th to the 6th century. The poem is obviously a fictitious, a fictitious account. Nevertheless, it is an ingenious compendium of the important figures in Germanic hero legend and a remarkable record of the Scop's role in early Germanic society. Okay, it also talks about the Scop's role here. So what will be the answer? The answer is, it's the personal account of the minister's life. Yes, it's about the minstrel. As we talked about here, pay attention that it's a Switzit is an idealization self-portrait of the Scop. What is a Scop? It's a minstrel of the Germanic heroic age. Got it? So this has to be the correct answer. Now pay attention to the next question. The 3 Dash tribes came to England in the middle of the 5th century. Which 3 tribes came into England? So there were 3 tribes. Which were these 3 tribes? There were Jutes, plus there were Anglos, plus there were Saxons. And all these 3 tribes belonged to German tribes. So these were Germanic tribes. Okay. So these were the Germanic tribes. So what will be the answer? The answer will be 3 Germanic tribes who invaded, who came into England, okay, in the middle of 5th century. Remember this. Then again, French also came into practice. So those were called as Anglo-Normans, okay. But in the 5th century, which 3 tribes came? The 3 Germanic tribes came, okay. So also remember this difference. Now pay attention to the next question. Which Germanic tribes came into England? Okay. So here the Germanic tribe is given to you. Now they are asking which 3 Germanic tribes. We have already talked about it. Came into England in the middle of the 5th century. Which were these 3? Jutes were also there. Anglos were also there. Saxons were also there. Now can there be 2 answers? No. Then which will be the correct answer? Option number C will be the correct answer. Got it? Yes, Shweta. I hope you have understood this. Okay, let's move ahead and look at the next question. What is our next question? Who is called father of our English learning? Who is called as father of our English learning? It's the Bede. Bede is called as the father of English learning. Okay. So I don't think so there is much in this to explain. Now pay attention to the next question. Who wrote Ecclesiastical History of English People? Who wrote this? Again, the answer is Bede. Bede wrote this very famous work, which is said as I'm extremely sorry for the pronunciation. Ecclesiastical History of English People. Okay. Okay. Now, who wrote paraphrase? What is the question? Who wrote paraphrase? Who wrote paraphrase? Who wrote paraphrase? It is the Cadman who wrote the paraphrase. So this is everything is related basically to the what you can call it, to the history or the background of whatever happened in the British English. Pay attention to the next question. The didactic poem that is Christ, is written by whom? First of all, what is the meaning of didactic? Who can tell me the meaning of didactic? Yes, students. I'm not getting any answers. Have you not studied about it? Have you not paid attention to the classes of mine? So basically, didactic poem is something which involves knowledge or morals. The poems which talks about the morals, the values, about the philosophy, about religion, religious things, and all those poems are considered to be as didactic poem. Moral or knowledge based. For example, philosophy, then religious. Okay, so these are the poems related to the didactic poems. Now there is one such didactic poem called as Christ or Christ. So this poem is written by whom? That is the question. So it is written by Cinewolf. Okay, so this poem is written by Cinewolf. Got it? Pay attention here. So a didactic poem is directly and unusually unapologetic, or instructional. It will be instructional or informational. It teaches or explains something such as a truth. Here it will explain you, or it will tell you about the truth or a moral or a principle or a process. The English word didactic derived from the Greek. What is the word? The Greek didactikos. This is the original word, means able to teach or to instruct. That is the didactical poem's meaning. Pay attention to the next question now. Who translated Bade's history into English in Anglo-Saxon period? Who translated Bade's history into English? Bade's history into English. So it was King Alfred. Who was the person? So the person's name was King Alfred, who translated Bade's history into English. It was in the Anglo-Saxon period. Again, there came so many people who translated Bade's history, but the first one, the person who first translated it, as well as the person who translated it in Anglo-Saxon period, was King Alfred. Okay. Now pay attention to the next question. Who contributed to English or Saxon Chronicles? Here we also talked about English or Saxon Chronicles, where I told you that Anglos or Anglo-Saxons brought poetry with them. They brought songs with them. They did not bring prose with them. So obviously there were English people, or there were some people who actually also started something in English. Okay, but you will not be able to see novels, or you will not be able to see any such particular concrete prose, but you will be able to see these chronicles. Chronicles were started that time, which were considered into prose. So who was the person who started this, or who contributed in this? It was again the King Alfred who contributed in this chronicles. So chronicles, what are chronicles? They are basically the periodicals, okay, in which, or it is a kind of a magazine in which history about that particular age is being taught, or news or any particular article is given in that book. Okay, so that are called as chronicles. Got it? Are you clear with this, everyone? Shweta, Pratik, Disha. Okay, let's continue. So Harold, the last of the Saxon king, defeated in. The Harold was the last king. So first of all, you should remember that Harold was the last Saxon king. And he was also defeated when and where he was defeated. He was defeated in the Battle of Hastings. Battle of Hastings, 166. Now, what is the background of Battle of Hastings? So, Battle of Hastings is the battle which was happened on October 14, 166. That ended in the defeat of Harold II of England by William. Who was William? He was the Duke of Normandy. This is important. And established the Normans as the rulers of England. Okay. So throughout his reign, the childless Edward the Confessor had used the absence of a clear successor to the throne as a bargaining tool. Okay. So this is something you should remember about Battle of Hastings. Now, there is another word, Norman conquest. What is this Norman conquest? Again, it is called as the Battle of Hastings. Why it is called as Battle of Hastings? Because Norman conquest, the military or the conquest of England by William, that is Duke of Normandy, primarily affected by his decisive victory over at the Battle of Hastings. Okay. And resulted ultimately in profound political, administrative and social changes in the British Isles. Okay. So you will find that now Battle of Hastings, you will find another name for it, that is Norman conquest. So remember, they might ask you questions based on either Norman conquest or they might give you Battle of Hastings. Now, there are few things that you have to remember for them, that is, who defeated this, who was the king who won this war, the William. William won this war. Who was William? He was the Duke of Normandy. Okay. When this battle was happened, it was happened on 14th of October 166. Who was defeated in it? Harold II. Pay attention. So, where it is? Yeah. See here. It was Harold II who was defeated in this battle. Okay. So, these are few of the things which you have to remember when either you will be asked questions on Norman conquest or the questions will be asked on the Battle of Hastings. Okay. Let's look at the next question now. What is our next question? Question 15, also called the Middle Age. So, which age is also called as Middle Ages? Renaissance, Enlightenment age, Medieval era or Modernist period? So, this answer is very simple. It is the Medieval era. Medieval word itself tells you about the middle, right? So, it is the Medieval era, which is also called as Middle Ages. Okay. Okay, let's move ahead. So, what type of French was spoken in England? What type of French was spoken in England? It was the Anglo-Norman. Yes, because as I told you earlier as well, so as there were Anglo-Saxons who came from Germany, there were Anglo-Normans who came from France. Now, the people who came from France, so the language they spoke in England was the mixed one, in which they spoke, so there were also people from Anglos, then there were people from Normans, and then there were people who were the native speakers of English. So all these three languages were combined together and they made their own different language. So which kind of French was spoken? It was the Norman, Anglo-Norman French was spoken. Okay. Let's pay attention to the next question now. What is our next question? What language did common people speak in England in the Middle Ages? So which common people used to speak? What language? It was the Middle English. It was the Middle English that was spoken by the people of Middle Ages. Okay. Pay attention to the next question. Who fought the 100-Year War? Now, this is a very interesting question, and for which I have given you so many examples, and I have told you so many of the things related to this. So, who fought the 100 Years War? It was between the England and the France. Remember, I told you that there was it was the historical event at that time. Yes, at the age of Chaucer, that there was 100-Year War. So it started and it lasted for like 100 years. And it was between England and France. Pay attention to the next question. The lowest group in the feudal system. Which is the lowest group in the feudal system? What is a feudal system? So feudal system is also known as the feudalism. Is a type of social and political system in which the landlords provide land to tenants in exchange for their loyalty and service. So what was this feudal system? It was basically where landlords used to give money to the poor people, those who were in need, and in return they used to make them work for them, okay, or they used to give them land. So they will give them land and they will ask them to cultivate that land or work on that land, okay, and whatever the profit, they will take that profit for themselves. So feudalism prevailed in the Middle Ages in Europe and Japan, and generally involved a lord, that is the landowner, allowing vassals, that is the tenants, to rent the land by the providing services, especially military services. The parcel of land called the fief was typically worked by serfs, laborers who had very few rights and were bound to the land itself. Okay, so इस पे जो काम करने वाले लोग थे, the people, those who used to work on these lands were called as the serfs. And the term feudal system is often used in a much more general way in political rhetoric to indicate an outdated exploitative system of government. This usage may or may not actually refer to relationship that don't look into like historical feudal systems. Okay, even nowadays you will find this words feudal system, but the practices are not happening even now. Okay, you might find it in some parts of the villages maybe, but not, it is not practiced legally anywhere nowadays. Okay, so now the lowest group of the feudal system, what is the lowest group of the feudal system is called? What is it? It's the serfs. We have already discussed this, right? So it is the serfs. See, pay attention here. These are the typical, the laborer who had very few rights. Okay, which are the lowest group. Those people are called as the serfs. Now pay attention to the next question. What is the theme of romances? What is the theme of romances at that age or at that particular time? It was the courtly love. The search for the courtly love, okay, was the actual theme of the romances at that age. Pay attention to the next question. Which of the following was a collection of stories written in Middle English? Which was it? I hope you all remember it. I have told you such a big history about it, right? So it is the Canterbury Tales. Yes, it is the story. It is basically a work written which is the collection of stories. How many stories? 24 stories. Who is the author of this? It's the Geoffrey Chaucer. Okay, Who is the person? It's the Geoffrey Chaucer. And how many stories were there? There were 24 stories. But eventually, actually, he wanted to write 120 stories. But because he died, he couldn't complete it. And how many stories were written? There were only 24 stories were written. Okay. So other background about Canterbury Tales, I have already explained it to you. I don't think so. I should be explaining it to you again. So which is the collection of stories written in the Middle English? It is the Canterbury Tales. The name itself tells you, tales means the stories. Now pay attention to the next question. The period of great individual writers takes place between these years. So which year the great individual writers took place? In the 1315 to 1400. This was the age, these were the 50 years where this was the period where great individual writers actually took place, where they got more and more recognition, where they started writing more and more. Okay. Okay, now pay attention to the next question. The Battle of Hastings take place on this date. Now we have already discussed about this, which is this date. It's the October 14, 1066. Okay. Now pay attention to the month, to the date and to the year. These three important things you have to pay attention. Okay, now look at the next question. In general, Middle English represents the levels of inflections to this vowel. Which vowel? It is the E. This you will understand it later on when we will be discussing it in a detailed manner. But as of now, just remember it. Okay. Now this is the last question of the day. What is the question? So what events mark the end of the Middle English period? What are the events? Death of King Edward? No. Death of Chaucer? Definitely yes. And there is another event, that is death of Mallory. But the first one is the most prominent event that was marked. But you cannot even forget this one, death of Mallory. Okay, now what happened in the death of Mallory? You can find it out on your own. Got it? So, are you clear with all the questions which I told you right away? Are you clear with all the questions, all the answers, the background that you have to remember? So always remember that whenever you are discussing, whenever you are studying for English literature, basically British literature, you have to pay attention to all the backgrounds or all the aspects of that one particular word as well. So if you are talking about any one event, then pay attention to who are the people who are involved in that event, the dates, important dates, then important locations where that event took place actually, and what was the significance of that event. Okay, so always remember. So for example, if you are talking about Geoffrey Chaucer, now when you are talking about Geoffrey Chaucer, also remember to look Geoffrey Chaucer in all the aspects. Now look for his political background. How was his political background? What was his personal life? Okay. Why personal life is important? Because his many of the writers' personal life has affected their work in lot of ways, or you can relate or you can understand their work, how they have written that work, or why they might have said like this in this particular word. You will understand each and everything about that particular writer when you will understand the background of that writer. Okay, so it is also important to know all the aspects of all the important writers, all the important poems. Now whenever you are studying any important poem, also remember that you have to also study for the in between lines. Okay, because you might have seen the questions are asked in between the lines as well. So for example, the character. Now as it was given that the monster Grendel, yes, So now for that, you should know who is this monster, what is his role in the poem, right? And what was the other related things related to the whole poem, right? So that is why learn whenever you are reading or learning any British literature, any work, read it from the scratch. Okay, go to their roots and then study about it, then you will understand the fruits of it. Okay, so I will stop here for now. I hope you have understood the whole today's session properly, and there is no any confusion about the about today's topic. Okay, for practice you can definitely download the app in which I have given you some contest question. You can give those contest question and also win exciting prizes. Okay, so until the time we meet next, thank you and happy learning. And also don't forget to be present on tomorrow's session at 6 p.m. on the same channel.